They call her mysterious, but she's not trying to be. She doesn't chase attention, yet eyes follow her wherever she goes. She speaks little, but her presence fills the room. There's something magnetic, something ancient about her energy. The kind that doesn't shout for validation, but quietly commands it. This is not the soft, pleasing energy society tells women to have. This is the dark feminine, and according to Carl Jung, it's the hidden force men can't resist, not because it pleases them, but because it awakens something deep within them. Jung believed every man carries an inner image of the ideal woman, what he called the anima. This inner feminine represents emotion, intuition, mystery, and depth. But most men never meet her consciously. They seek her unknowingly in the outer world, through women who embody her energy. And the dark feminine, calm yet powerful, alluring yet untamed, mirrors that buried anima perfectly. When a man encounters a woman with that kind of presence, he doesn't just see her. He feels her, like she's triggering something sacred he didn't know he'd lost. You see, the dark feminine doesn't chase, convince, or perform. She attracts by being whole, not perfect, but complete. She has met her shadows, the hidden parts of herself most people avoid. She's familiar with her anger, her desires, her grief, her chaos. But instead of suppressing them, she integrated them. That's what makes her energy so magnetic. She's not fighting herself. She moves with her inner world instead of against it. To Jung, this self-acceptance represents individuation, the process of becoming whole. A woman who embodies her dark feminine has done the deep inner work. She faced her pain, accepted her contradictions, and found power in her vulnerability. This depth terrifies some men, yet fascinates them at the same time, because subconsciously they crave it. They crave the emotional intensity that reminds them they're alive. The world teaches women to smile more, to soften their edges, to be agreeable. But the dark feminine refuses to dim her truth for comfort. She's not rude or arrogant. She's simply rooted. She knows what she wants, and she doesn't apologize for it. This unapologetic authenticity breaks the illusion of control that many men subconsciously hold. Around her, they can't pretend. They're disarmed, forced to feel instead of think. Jung would say that this encounter stirs a man's psyche. He's drawn not to her looks alone, but to what she represents, the lost connection with his own depth, emotion, and intuition. The more a woman embodies this wholeness, the more a man senses that something in her completes a part of him he's never explored. It's not about seduction. It's about reflection. She becomes a mirror for his own suppressed soul. But here's the truth most people don't see. The dark feminine isn't dark because she's negative. She's dark because she exists in the unseen, the emotional, the mysterious. She represents everything that can't be controlled, predicted, or fully understood. Her darkness is not evil, it's depth. And depth, in a shallow world, feels revolutionary. She doesn't demand love. She inspires it. She doesn't prove her worth. She embodies it. She doesn't chase the masculine. She stands in her own power until it naturally finds her. That is what Jung meant when he said that real attraction comes from the unconscious. The dark feminine moves not through effort but through essence. This is why men can't resist her, not because she tries to please them, but because she reminds them of the forgotten parts of themselves. She evokes emotion, curiosity, even fear. Yet behind that fear is fascination. Behind that fascination is desire. And behind that desire lies the deepest truth of all, that men are not truly drawn to women who give them comfort, but to women who awaken their soul. When she looks at him, it's not with need, but with knowing. When she speaks, she doesn't seek approval. When she's silent, her energy speaks louder than any words. That silence, that mystery, it's what Jung called the call of the unconscious. It's the pull toward transformation, and few men can resist it. The dark feminine is not here to be understood. She's here to be felt. She embodies creation and destruction, chaos and calm, passion and peace. She is the moon, ever-changing yet constant in her pull. Jung would say she's the archetype of transformation, the bridge between the conscious and the hidden, the seen and unseen, the light and the dark. And that's what makes her so powerful and so irresistible. This part dives deeper into how her energy activates a man's unconscious and transforms the meaning of attraction itself. To understand why men can't resist the dark feminine, we must look deeper into Jung's psychology of the unconscious. Every man, Jung said, lives divided between what he shows the world and what he hides from it. The part he hides, his emotions, fears, vulnerability, and intuition, is stored in his unconscious mind. The dark feminine energy doesn't just attract him. It awakens this hidden side. When he's near her, he feels more alive, more emotional, more human. She becomes the mirror through which he confronts his own depths. This awakening can be both magnetic and uncomfortable, because the dark feminine doesn't flatter his ego. She speaks to his soul. She doesn't feed his sense of control. She quietly dissolves it. Around her, he feels unguarded. He can't hide behind logic or dominance. She makes him feel things he can't rationalize, and that's what both scares and draws him in. It's the same paradox Jung described when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The dark feminine forces that confrontation. She is the unconscious made flesh. But to truly embody this energy, a woman must have walked through her own shadows first. She must have faced rejection without losing her softness, betrayal without closing her heart, loneliness without forgetting her worth. She has cried in silence and risen in power. That's what gives her an aura men can sense but can't define. It's the energy of a woman who no longer seeks completion outside herself. She has already found it within. The dark feminine knows that attraction is not a strategy, it's energy. When she walks into a room, she's not trying to impress anyone. Her energy says, "I am whole." That silent declaration is louder than any words. Men feel it instantly. They can't explain why they're drawn, but they are. Her self-connection makes them want to connect. Her emotional depth awakens their emotional hunger. And her confidence in silence challenges their need for control. Jung taught that everything we repress eventually shows up outside us in symbolic form. The dark feminine becomes that living symbol for men. She represents what they repress, the feeling, the intuition, the chaos, the surrender. She becomes the embodiment of what they crave but don't understand. That's why so many men call her mysterious or intoxicating. It's not because she hides herself. It's because she's complete. She doesn't reveal everything. But she doesn't conceal either. She simply is. And there's something timeless about that. In ancient mythology, goddesses like Lilith, Kali, and Persephone carried the same archetypal energy, the power of transformation through darkness. They weren't loved because they were easy to understand. They were revered because they embodied truth, shadow, and awakening. Jung believed these mythic archetypes live within every woman's psyche. The dark feminine is not something new, it's something eternal. But here's what most people misunderstand. Dark feminine energy isn't about dominance, manipulation, or seduction. It's not about using mystery to gain control. It's about standing in the truth of one's emotional depth without fear. It's about owning the parts of yourself that others told you to hide. The rage, the desire, the grief, the wildness, the softness. When a woman reclaims those parts, she becomes magnetic because she's authentic. Men can feel that authenticity in their bones. There's a quiet confidence in the dark feminine. She doesn't seek constant reassurance because she knows her worth isn't up for debate. Her validation comes from within, from her connection to her own heart. And this inner stability creates a gravitational pull. The more she's anchored in her truth, the more the masculine is drawn to her. Jung would say that her wholeness calls the masculine toward integration, toward becoming whole himself. That's why the attraction isn't just physical. It's psychological, emotional, even spiritual. When he looks at her, He sees something he's been missing, not in her body, but in her being. Her presence whispers to him, "There's more to you than what you show." And that whisper becomes irresistible. But this connection is not always easy. The dark feminine doesn't soothe a man's ego. She challenges it. She triggers the parts of him that resist vulnerability. Some men will run from her energy because it forces them to confront their own inner chaos. Others will be transformed by it, because once he's seen himself through her reflection, he can never go back to sleep again. Her power lies not in control, but in surrender, not the kind that weakens her, but the kind that trusts her intuition completely. She knows when to walk away, when to stay, when to speak, and when silence is stronger. That intuitive knowing comes from deep emotional intelligence, something Jung linked to the unconscious feminine. The dark feminine doesn't plan her influence. It flows naturally from her alignment. To Jung, this kind of woman becomes a living symbol of the self, the total, unified psyche that transcends duality. Light and dark, logic and emotion, creation and destruction all coexist within her. And that's exactly why she's so captivating. She doesn't need to perform perfection. She embodies wholeness, and wholeness, in a fragmented world, feels like magic. Men sense that magic. Some try to possess it. Others simply orbit around it. But no one forgets it, because in her presence, they meet not just a woman, they meet their own soul reflected back to them. That reflection changes everything. This final part reveals how her presence transforms men, heals relationships, and how women can consciously embody this powerful archetype in real life. When a man encounters a woman rooted in her dark feminine energy, something within him begins to shift. He may not understand it consciously, but deep down, he feels it, the stirring of his own forgotten soul. She doesn't fix him, yet he feels healed around her. She doesn't tell him what to do, yet her energy silently guides him toward the truth. This is what Jung meant when he spoke about the transformative power of the anima, the inner feminine that awakens a man's path to wholeness. The dark feminine becomes the mirror through which he rediscovers his emotional depth, his empathy, and his humanity. But this transformation isn't comfortable. Her energy doesn't offer safety in the ordinary sense. It offers growth. She doesn't give him peace through escape. She gives him peace through awareness. When he projects his ideal image of femininity onto her, she quietly shatters it, reminding him that real love begins when illusions end. Around her, he learns to feel rather than to fix. He learns that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the bridge to real intimacy. She teaches him this without words, without effort, simply through being fully herself. That's why men can't resist her. It's not about beauty, charm, or perfection. It's about what she awakens. Her mystery invites him to explore his own depths. Her calm intensity challenges his superficiality. Her emotional honesty pulls him into the present moment. Jung wrote that the meeting between the masculine and feminine energies is the core of psychological transformation. The dark feminine doesn't complete a man. She reveals the parts of him he must complete himself. And yet, her power lies not in dominance, but in presence. She doesn't chase, she doesn't prove, she doesn't beg. She simply is. Her silence speaks, her energy communicates. She's not afraid of being misunderstood because she understands herself. That inner clarity radiates outward, commanding respect without demand. It's why men find her unforgettable. She becomes the woman who lingers in their memory long after. The conversation ends, not because of what she said, but because of what she made them feel. In modern relationships, where many confuse attention with love and validation with worth, the dark feminine is rare. She doesn't seek constant reassurance because her sense of self doesn't depend on others. She knows when to open her heart and when to protect her peace. She gives deeply, but never at the cost of her essence. This balance between openness and boundaries makes her energy deeply magnetic. Jung would call this the union of opposites when light and dark coexist in harmony within the psyche. But embodying the dark feminine isn't about imitation. It's not about trying to appear mysterious or powerful. It's about returning to authenticity. It begins with self-awareness, asking yourself what emotions you've suppressed, what truths you've hidden, what parts of yourself you've judged. The dark feminine emerges when you bring those shadows into light, not to erase them, but to integrate them, because true magnetism doesn't come from perfection. It comes from wholeness. When a woman accepts her complexity, she becomes unpredictable in the most beautiful way. She can be soft yet strong, compassionate yet fierce, calm yet wildly passionate. She doesn't fit into boxes because she's not meant to. That unpredictability is what keeps the masculine energy alive around her, not through games, but through genuine aliveness. She moves through the world like a storm that knows when to rest. Her rhythm follows intuition, not expectation. Jung often said that the goal of life is individuation, becoming your truest self by uniting your conscious and unconscious. The dark feminine represents a woman who has done exactly that. She's not afraid of her feelings, her darkness, or her desires. She has befriended her inner chaos and turned it into wisdom. This gives her an aura of deep self-trust, and that trust radiates outward as confidence that can't be faked. Men feel that trust. It makes them relax, open, and feel safe to express parts of themselves they usually hide. That's the paradox of the dark feminine. Her darkness doesn't scare the right man. It frees him. Her intensity doesn't push him away. It awakens him. The man who's ready for growth doesn't run from her. He rises to meet her. Because deep down, he knows she's not here to complete him, but to remind him of who he's meant to become. This is the divine dance between the masculine and feminine that Jung explored so deeply, not a power struggle, but a sacred exchange. When a woman stands in her dark feminine, she doesn't need to demand love. Her energy naturally attracts it. She doesn't chase attention. She commands respect. She doesn't seek approval. She radiates self-worth. And that's why men can't resist her, because she embodies something they can't find anywhere else: truth, depth, and freedom. In her presence, men remember what it feels like to feel, to be seen, not through their achievements, but through their essence, to be loved not for their masks, but for their soul. The dark feminine doesn't rescue the masculine, she awakens it. She reminds him that real strength isn't control, but surrenders to truth. Real love isn't possession, but connection. Real intimacy isn't found in perfection, but in presence. So when you embody your dark feminine energy, you're not becoming someone else. You're returning to yourself. You're embracing your power, your softness, your chaos, and your calm. You're no longer afraid to be misunderstood because you finally understand yourself. And that inner understanding is the most irresistible force in the world. Because the truth is, men don't fall for women who hide their depth. They fall for women who own it. And the woman who has met her own darkness doesn't need to chase love. Love finds her. It always does. That is the essence of the dark feminine. The mystery that doesn't fade, the energy that doesn't beg, and the presence that transforms everyone it touches. And as Carl Jung would say, when you make peace with your inner darkness, the light you carry becomes impossible to ignore.